Hi, my name is Catherine Moore, and my content that I put out is known for standing up to the Texas Annual Conference of the United Methodist Denomination regarding their history of employing sexual predators, one of them being my father, John Dowden, and also one of the sexual predators that they employed also murdered his wife in Troop, Texas in the early 2000s, and his name was Michael Tabb. And he was sentenced to 55 years in prison. I am doing a series covering the hypocrisy of the sexual ethics policy of the Texas Annual Conference of the United Methodist Denomination in Houston, Texas. I take off my glasses off and on because when I wear my glasses, there's a glare, but I need them to see. And right now, to be honest, I am tired. The fatigue has hit me from the low iron, and I have an autoimmune disease. But I'm here because I am committed to this series because this is very important to me. And I'm on page 4 of the sexual ethics policy for the Texas Annual Conference. And this is the policy on bullying. The Texas Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church categorically opposes the practices of adult, youth, and child bullying. Bullying is a behavioral expression of aggressiveness that attempts to wield power over another persons, or people. This may be expressed by physical or psychological means. Bullying can result in the death of the victim. So what I want to talk about that, I would like to bring up the supervised visitations that take place on the property of Sunset United Methodist Church in Pasadena, Texas, and also at St. Stephen's United Methodist Church in Houston, Texas. The way that the parents in this program are bullied on the United Methodist Church properties is that they are followed to the restroom. The domestic relations office employees will follow the visiting parents to the restroom, and they will stand there in the restroom to listen to what the parent is doing on the toilet, either if they are urinating on the toilet, or if they are having a bowel movement on the toilet, or if they are passing gas. They literally stand there to listen to the parents. They follow the parents to the restroom and listen to them. This is coercion. This is also bullying and harassment. And I'm assuming, I don't really know, but it looks like the Texas Annual Conference is making an exception for this type of bullying, even though the policy on bullying and their sexual ethics goes against it. And definitely, it is bullying. And also, if one of those parents actually happens to be a survivor of sexual assault by a United Methodist minister that was employed by the Texas Annual Conference, then this is another form of coercion and bullying in an attempt to silence someone who is a survivor of sexual assault. And it also discusses that bullying there are people that have committed suicide over bullying, who have been victims of bullying and committed suicide. After I had to visit my sons at a United Methodist church that was under the Texas Annual Conference that employed my father, who sexually assaulted me repeatedly for decades, they, after I went to these visitations at the United Methodist Church, and after I brought it to the attention of the Domestic Relations Office about the history and my history with the United Methodist Church, and despite their efforts to gaslight me and tell me that I had nothing to do with the United Methodist Church, which would not make sense since my father was a United Methodist minister and I grew up in it, and I am also related to someone who had a very important role within the conference in the 70s and 80s and into the early to mid 90s, possibly. And after the visitations at St. Stephen's, after the coercion and the bullying from that, I did eventually go and check myself into a psych hospital, because that was the last straw for me, visiting my kids at a United Methodist church. And it was after that that I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And during that time that I was being sexually harassed and going through coercion and bullying at St. Stephen's United Methodist Church, which was under the administration of the Texas Annual Conference, that was the last straw for me. I had had enough after that. And it was after that that I absolutely did not want to have anything to do with anyone in any evangelical community. And that is what opened my eyes to the problems with evangelical communities. And before all of that, I actually attempted to repair my relationship with the Texas Annual Conference. However, I was not the one that damaged that relationship, even though they may not see it that way. If they see it that way, it's because when it comes to sexual assault of minors, they want willing participants and children that are going to be obedient and remain silent and complicit with sexual assault. And I am not one of those people. There are several scriptural evidences of bullying. Isn't this interesting? So now, not only are you putting I can't think of the word because I am fatigued, but you want to use scripture to gloss it over as if you really care. You're above bullying, even though you engage in it. There are several scripture evidences of bullying. The book of Esther is about the bullying of one man and the grace God expressed through God's persons. The questioning, beating, and let me read that again. The book of Esther is about the bullying of one man and the grace God expressed through God's persons. Okay. Yeah, I didn't experience any grace in the supervised visitation. But anyway, I digress, because really it's not like I deserved it, since I survived sexual assault from a United Methodist clergy. I'm just their garbage they wanted to toss out. The questioning, beating, and subsequent death on the cross of Jesus Christ is the ultimate example of expressed abuse of power over a person. even the Son of God. Stephen and a host of Christian martyrs have suffered similar personal attacks that led to the death for the cause of Christ. These are persons today who suffer and die because another person seeks to overwhelm them by aggressive behavior. So, what I would like to know from the Texas conference is, did that statement come to mind after Marla Tabb was brutally beaten beyond recognition in the Methodist parsonage in Troop, Texas? That would be interesting to know. Okay, reporting. Nothing in this policy requires the person alleging bullying to report the matter to the individual who is the subject of the allegation. Any person who believes that he or she is subjected to any type of bullying should bring the matter to the attention of the bishop, a district superintendent, or the assistant to the bishop. Actually, I did bring this to the attention of the district superintendent that was over the district that was over St. Stephen's United Methodist Church, and he was very rude and condescending and insulting. And he said that the family court ordered me to visit my kids at a United Methodist Church, which is not true. I mean, as far as I recall, that's not true, because I was there. I don't know where he was, but I was there. And I was not ordered to visit my kids at a United Methodist Church by the family court. I was ordered supervised visitation, but I was not ordered to visit my kids at a United Methodist Church that was under the same administration that employed my father, who sexually assaulted me. And the bishop just shot me down, basically. Not the bishop, the district superintendent. And I have that conversation on recording. Investigations. The Texas Annual Conference is committed to a prompt and thorough investigation of allegations in compliance with the Book of Discipline. It is intended that the privacy of the persons involved be protected except to the extent necessary to conduct a proper investigation. Actually, that's a lie, because when it comes to the Domestic Relations Office in the Texas Annual Conference, there is no privacy for the parents and the children. I contacted the conference office to tell them what was going on in the supervised visitation. And because of my exposure of that, I cannot see my kids today. I cannot have a relationship with my kids today. I can't visit my kids because I was not okay with being sexually harassed and bullied at a United Methodist Church that was associated with the Texas Annual Conference and the Domestic Relations Office. But, that is not the only example that I have. I have others. One of them is also clergy should not, adults that are employed under the Texas Annual Conference Administration, or adults involved in churches, under the Texas Annual Conference Administration, should also not pursue friendships with minors. I know because it happened to me. Okay. Non-retaliation. Boy, is this a joke. No one who reports bullying will be retaliated against or adversely treated because he or she made an allegation in good faith. So the Texas Annual Conference would never interfere with a parent's ability to visit their children, would they? They would never communicate to someone in charge of the supervised visitation, that any allegations of abuse that come from me are just hearsay. They're not relevant. Anybody else, it's relevant, but me, it's not. The reason why I say that is because Gwen Adams told me that herself. Okay. Coercive action. If the investigation substantiates that the allegation is valid, immediate corrective action designed to stop the bullying and prevent its recurrence will be taken. Such corrective action may include discipline, up to and including discharge or dismissal of the offending person. This is a policy statement of the Texas Annual Conference, approved and updated on June 12th of 2024. I spoke a little bit about when I was 15, there was a United Methodist minister who pursued a friendship with me. And she had also asked about the 3 girls that my parents had attempted to adopt. And I don't remember exactly what I told her. I'm sure I told her something about it didn't work out. And it was a long time ago. However, what I do know is that whatever I said should have been enough that she should have gone to the district superintendent over her or the bishop's office, and she did not do that. What she did instead is she pursued a friendship with me. And there were multiple nights that we walked alone to our cabin. And the point of view I was coming from was that I was a child that had already been repeatedly sexually assaulted and had multiple decades before I would come to realize that. I had also witnessed the trauma of my parents sending April, Dawn Strong, Tiffany, Ann Wright, and Rosemarie Wright back to foster care because they were beginning to talk. There were many traumas witnessed with that, and I regretted that. However, I was a minor, and she saw signs of abuse. And instead of befriending me, what she should have done was gone to her district superintendent. She should have gone. The fact that we didn't have a car should have been a huge red flag. She should have gone to the bishop of the conference, but that didn't happen. And there was a pattern there. There was dysfunction. But I was already at a disadvantage because I was in a severely abusive home. My father was a child molester. My mother had assisted him. I had already gone through medical trauma. And her kindness was misleading because eventually what happened was she would, once I turned around, I was 18, but there was constantly a reminder of her that I wasn't doing enough, that it became a toxic friendship of I was constantly seeking her approval and I wasn't going to get it. And the reason why I wasn't going to get her approval is because she was just as dysfunctional and underdeveloped emotionally as I was. And why was she just as underdeveloped emotionally as I was? Because she was an adult that pursued a friendship with a minor, which I would never do. And I reconnected with her during the time of my divorce. And I know what I'm sharing now because I've had time to process it. I was in an abusive marriage. I had an infant at the time that I reconnected with her. So I had too much going on in my head to fully process my friendship with her, which never should have happened. Because if I had never been friends with her, if she had never pursued a friendship with me, I never would have reconnected with her. Because it was just another toxic relationship. And because I was already in the position of an abusive marriage, really, when you're in an abusive marriage, there is no room for more toxic relationships because it's just going to continue to bring you down. She was in Arkansas at the time, and I had asked her if she would come to Houston, all the way from Arkansas, to baptize our sons. This was naive on my part. The way that friendship ended was the custody of our sons were split. My ex-husband did not want custody of our younger son. And so I had the custody of our younger son, and he had custody of our older son. And Carl was lying about how well Alex was doing. And Alex had already been hospitalized 7 times. Carl had already been reported for physical abuse of Alex. And having been raised in a highly abusive environment, I knew things weren't going well. And the last conversation I had with her, I told her about Carl lying, saying Alex was doing great. And she tried to gaslight me into believing that he was doing great simply because my ex-husband said he was, when she knew he was abusive. She even said herself he wasn't fit. And the way the conversation ended was she accused me of not wanting my son to do well. And this is coming from somebody who never wanted kids. That opinion was also coming from somebody who had the audacity to pursue a friendship with a minor, which is a very uneven ground. And then she proceeded to tell me that I needed help, that I was very sick. And that, too, also came from someone who suffers from depression and came from someone who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. And at the time, I didn't know how to stand up for myself and say those things. It took me years to process that because I had so much trauma in my head and the grief from losing custody of my sons. And the reason why I was in the wrong for reconnecting with her, I should have known. After everything that happened, after all the time she had insulted me. But I was desperate. I was desperate for friends. I was desperate for support. And when we're desperate, we tend to go to what is familiar rather than trust what is new. Because we don't know how to handle what is new. Because if we go back to what is familiar, we know what to expect. Even if we don't realize the complexity and the dysfunction, we still know what to expect because We think that's what we deserve. And I had already scheduled a baptism at St. Paul's United Methodist Church for her to come and baptize my sons. And that day we had that conversation. She said she never wanted to hear from me again. I had already told her when the baptism was going to be. So because of her own ego, she blew off the baptism of my sons. And that was a part of her job. And as a minister, when you are doing a baptism, it is about, the baptism is about the person, the life and the soul being baptized. It's not about the clergy that is doing the baptism. And it was wrong and it was unfair because she was in no position to make assumptions about my mental health, considering the hell that I was going through. And considering that she had her own mental health issues, obviously, because she felt it was appropriate to pursue a friendship with a child who's 15. She has no place criticizing anybody's mental health or how anyone handles their mental health. And the fact that she had agreed to baptize my kids and that she didn't have the decency or the morality or the ethics to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I won't be able to make it to baptize your children. I just can't get away. And I am so sorry. Instead, she wanted to make it about me. Someone who accused me of being narcissistic. She wanted to make it about me and about what she wanted me to believe, that something was wrong with me. It's because there's something wrong with me. That's why she's going to blow off the baptism of our sons. And considering the fact that she never wanted children, she was in no place to make any judgments about a mother. Because being a pastor and being a mother are two completely different things. And she should consider herself fortunate that she has never been through the hell that I have been through and I am still going through, because I still have a son who's not receiving psychiatric treatment. And he has repeatedly in the past year said he wants his 10-year-old brother to die a slow and painful death. Alex does not have any friends. He is 16. He will be 17 at the end of May next year. There's no talk of a job. There are no future goals. And I don't have a clue what the future holds for my son. And I am quite certain that Diane has never known that pain, and she has never known the pain of having to hospitalize her own child 7 times. In fact, she was on the phone with me the first time I had to hospitalize my son. And no mother who's had to go through what I've had to go through should ever be accused of not wanting her child to do well. Because what my children have faced, what my son has had to face, is what my mother wanted me to She wanted me to be mentally ill. And it is hell on earth to know that your child's future is questionable and that you have no power to change it because no one will listen.